Hello, my name's Amy. I'm an indie author with 9 published books, and today I'm going to be talking about my writing goals for the next 18 months. Along with, kind of as an addendum to that, why I'm not doing Milwordy. You know, I hadn't really planned to make a Milwordy video because I'm not planning to take part. If you've missed all the buzz around AuthorTube recently, Milwordy is a challenge wherein you write 1,000,000 words in a year, or maybe edit or read, or there are lots of different versions of this challenge. The idea really though is to interact with 1,000,000 words over the course of a year. I want to start out by saying that I am not bashing this idea. I think it has a lot of value for certain writers. But that does not include me, or certainly not at this point in my writing life. But for a while I've been meaning to make a video about my 18-month writing goals, and that really does play into the whole Milwordy thing, so I thought I'd talk about it all together today. First of all, I just want to run through what those goals are. Now, I will keep this brief because if you haven't followed my channel for a while, these names and book series will not mean a lot to you. But I do want to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. Over roughly the next 18 months, this is from about now, September 2020, to the first months of 2022, I want to work on the following. The edits for the last book in the Flight of the Lady Farine, which is my steampunk fantasy series, and also edits for Echo State, which is the second book in my cyberpunk Eidolon Division series. Then we've also got the third book in that series, which I'm hoping is going to come out around the start of 2022, and 3 as yet completely untitled and mostly unwritten urban fantasy books. Along the way, I would also really like to make room for writing the first draft of a massive epic fantasy series. I've talked about this once or twice before as being a series that I think will ultimately have over 1,000,000 words in it, but by the end of 2021, I would like to have drafted the first book. So these are some pretty big goals. Since the start of 2020, I've made it a habit to make goals for myself, but not deadlines, and I am sticking to this. I actually made a video about this back in January. Basically, I'm finding that project deadlines do not really help me. The thing that works best for me is to come up with a list of all the projects I want to work on, to put them in an order that's sensible, as in writing the first book in a series before the second, and then setting myself weekly goals. That's what I've been doing since the start of the year, and I've written something like 230,000 words this year. And I also released a book in January and an omnibus edition a couple of months later of a different series. So it's been a pretty good writing year. All of these books I've just mentioned do not have set deadlines. I am really hoping to fit them into the next 18 months, and I have a rough schedule that I'll be aiming to stick to, but it is very rough. So I want to talk a little bit about why I've chosen these specific goals, because there are very strong reasons why it's these goals and not others. These are strategic and meaningful goals for where I want to take my indie author career next. Basically, by finishing the books I've just talked about, I will be wrapping up 2 more series and starting another, as well as writing a big epic fantasy that I will be able to publish at a later date. All of these move my publishing plans and my writing career forwards in a really sensible way. Wrapping up series gives me more ways to advertise and market my books, whereas starting a new series is a great way to bring in new readers. So these are not plans or books that I have just plucked out of the air. They are all sensible ways to move me forward. So then, why am I not doing Milwordy? Across all the various drafts, all these words and all these books come to about 820,000 words. If I included rereading, I would possibly get close to 1,000,000, although it would be across 18 months rather than a year. So the capacity to do Milwordy is probably there with my existing plans, but I'm still not really tempted to do it. The thing is, I fear that working towards such a big word count goal would make me sloppy. The truth is, I've reached a point in my publishing career that I don't need 1,000,000 words. What I need are these very specific 820,000 words. And also, they really need to be in the order I've set out for myself. I could easily just write 1,000,000 words, but if there's no strategy behind those, they're not going to be a lot of use to me. As an indie author, right now it would be more useful to me to say, write 100,000 words and finish an ongoing series. I have to be very careful about where I put my time and my energy to make the best use of both. I definitely do think though that Milwordy has some value, if you're the right writer for it. I feel the same way about NaNoWriMo quite a lot these days as well. If you want to really push your productivity, if you want to get yourself into more of a writing habit and routine, if you want to join a big writing community and write alongside lots of other people, these are all really valid reasons to join a big writing challenge. These things are just not my biggest goals right now though. And I suspect some other writers out there will be feeling the same way, which is why I've made this video at all. If you're looking at Milwordy and finding that it just does not speak to you at all, I want to offer you this alternative. I'm calling this project-based goals because that's really what it is. The word count is not particularly relevant. It's where your time is going that's important and how many projects you're finishing. And this doesn't just have to be for the next year. Time goals and word count goals simply do not work for all writers. Even tracking things like time and word count doesn't work for everyone. The earliest books that I wrote, I didn't even track the word count of how long they were. I just kept writing until the story was finished, and that worked for me for 3 books. In the same vein, as I've said, deadlines do not really work for me, but they're incredibly useful for a lot of writers. So if you don't like tracking or you don't like looking at word count, maybe focusing on projects is the way to go. Taking one story from beginning to end is incredibly satisfying. And it's also very valuable because it teaches you an awful lot about how to be a successful writer. Ultimately though, whether you've decided to do Milwordy or not, I think there is one really important message here, and that is not to follow trends. I feel in a lot of online writing communities that as soon as one new idea pops up, everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and not enough people take the time to decide whether it's actually suitable for them. I fully believe in experimentation. I think you've got to try lots of different processes, lots of different techniques, and see what works for you as a writer. But your end goal should be to let instinct and experience teach you what does work, so that you can find your process and not what everyone else is doing. So there are my 18-month goals and my thoughts on Milwordy. If you are taking part in Milwordy, please let me know down in the comments. Like I said, I do think it's going to be a really valuable challenge for some writers. So good luck if you are taking part. But if you're like me and you're not on the Milwordy train, please do also let me know what you're working on. There are lots of different ways to approach productivity as a writer, and we don't all have to do the same thing at the same time. If all you want to do over the next year is finish one short story, that is perfectly valid. You just have to learn what works for you. And I, of course, will keep you updated on how my 18-month goals go. They are very ambitious, and it's a lot of words even without doing Milwordy. So the next thing for me to do is just to get to work. I hope you're also feeling inspired and ready to get back to your stories. Keep writing, everyone, and I'll see you next time.